जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद जय प्रभुपद। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद अभय चरणारविंद भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शत श्री श्रीमद भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोस्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपीनाथ श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरिवर महाराज की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 3, chapter 14, entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. Text number 33. Didistu virita tena karmavadyena bharata upasangamya viprarshim adho mukhyabhya bhashata। Didistu vridita tena कर्मावद्येन भारत उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् अधोमुख्यभ्यभाषत दिदिस्तु वृडिता तेन कर्मावद्येन भारत उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् अधोमुख्यभ्यभाषत दिदिस्तु वृडिता तेन कर्मावद्येन भारत उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् तेन भारत उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् दिदिस्तु वृडिता तेन उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् मुख्यस्य भाषित माताजी दिदिस्तु वृडिता तेन कर्मावद्येन भारत उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् अधोमुख्यभाषित दिदिस्तु वृडिता तेन कर्मावद्येन भारत उपसंगम्य विप्रर्षिम् अधोमुख्यभ्यभाषत माताजी दिदिस्तु वृडिता तेन कर्मावद्येन भारत Diti, the wife of Kashyap, to but Vridita, ashamed, Tena, by that, Karma, act, Avadyena, faulty, Bharata, O son of the Bharat family, Upasangamya, going nearer to Viprarshim, the Brahmana sage, Adha Mukhi, with her face lowered, Abhyabhashata, politely said. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Abhay Charna Aravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. The translation: O son of the Bharat family, Diti after this went nearer to her husband. Her face lowered because of her faulty action. She spoke as follows. Purport: when one is ashamed of an abominable action, one naturally becomes down-faced. Diti came to her senses after the abominable sexual intercourse with her husband. Such sexual intercourse is condemned as prostitution. In other words, sex life with one's wife is equal to prostitution if the regulations are not properly followed. Vandeham Shri Guroh Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगणललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमः ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैता गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Hare Krishna. Bowing down to all the assembled devotees, all the disciples of Srila Prabhupada, our leaders Avas Prabhu, Archita Prabhu, Amal Bhakta Maharaj, all Matajis. Here we are seeing that the guilt has overtaken Diti, because now she realizes that in the heat of the moment she has succumbed to the lusty desire, and now she understands that there is going to be misfortune about to befall upon her. So this is one phenomenon that we see, that whenever someone commits sinful action or the action that is not prescribed in the scriptures or not sanctioned by the spiritual master, immediately with the power of the Paramatma that sits within our heart, we feel guilty. You know, if you do something wrong, if you treat somebody in wrong fashion, somehow later on you start to feel that, oh, I made a mistake, and then the guilt takes over. Now Diti, she is experiencing that guilt because when she was being attacked by the lust, her intelligence was completely clouded. And that's what Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, that when the lust arrives, then most likely it clouds the intelligence, and then we are unable to distinguish what is right and what is wrong. In that case, it's very important to understand and realize that when such confusion arises, it's better to take the advice from the seniors. If the seniors are not available, one must take advice from the revealed scriptures. If the Vaishnavas are not available, at least one should take the opinion of the scriptures before committing or succumbing to a sinful action. Like Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita, Athachittam samadhatum na shaknosi mai sthiram abhyasena tu kaunteya mamib chhaptum dhananjaya. So Krishna says that it happens a lot of times that you will not be able to concentrate yourself, your mind, upon me, but there is a process of abhyas, there is a process of regulation, there is a process of following strictly the rules and regulations that are given in the scriptures, by which it will become very easy to focus upon the spiritual subject matter. And sometimes it happens that we are very confused what to do. In such case, we can understand what is right, what is wrong by the scriptures. Like Krishna says that Tasmat Shastra Pramanam Te Karya Akarya. How to understand what is the karya, what is the right thing to do and what is the wrong thing to do. It's my Shastra Pramanam Te. It has been judged, has to be estimated by the scriptures, not by our own whimsical mind, not by our uncontrolled senses. So Krishna says that very important point. And then if someone gives up that, if someone doesn't want to follow Bhagavad Gita, somebody may say, I don't care about the scriptures, I do not want to listen to any advice. Then Krishna says that for such people, those who have given up the advice of the scriptures, they cannot attain nasa siddhim avapnoti na sukham na param gatim. Such people, yat shastra vidhim utsrujya vartate kamakarta. People who give up the advice of the scriptures, give up the advice of the spiritual master, giving up the advice of the Vaishnavas, and they act whimsically. Yat shastra vidhim utsrujya vartate kamakarta. According to one's own whimsical desires, such a person nasa siddhi avapnoti. He can never attain perfection. Na sukham. He will never attain real happiness. Na param gatim. He will never attain the ultimate goal of life. So here Diti is now that example where we see that she has failed to listen to the advice of her husband. The husband was telling that this is not the right action and we should not be committing this action, but Diti could not follow that advice. So in the scriptures it is very nicely mentioned that actually in Bhagavad Gita itself Krishna says that the illusory energy is multi-branched. The more you go in, the more you get entangled. So Krishna describes how the tree of the material world is. Adascha urdhvam prasruta yasya shakha guna pravala vishay pravala. So Krishna describes in that fashion that the tree of material world is multi-branched, and the more you get into those branches, you get more and more entangled. So Krishna describes, just like somebody may have, take an example that there is one person who does not eat onion, garlic, no gluten, no dairy, and of course no eggs, no meat. Such a person, how many choices he has, how many choices of restaurants he has to go and eat. So I remember one friend, she would never eat before, like, anything, no gluten, no dairy, no onion, garlic, and no meat, no eggs. So that person would tell that only I can go to 5 restaurants in entire LA, in entire Los Angeles area. I can only eat at 5 restaurants because wherever I go, they don't have what I can eat. Now the same person, if decides that it's okay to eat gluten, I'm okay with gluten, then the more choices of restaurants open up. Now that person can go to 10 restaurants. Now if that person decides, I'm also okay with the dairy, it's okay, it's fine, Somebody may say it's fine, I can digest milk and gluten is fine. So it's not that I'm breaking any principle. So more doors, are opened. So more restaurants. Now that person can go to 20 restaurants. The person can say, okay, onion, garlic, it's not non-vegetarian. It's still, it's still okay. Onion, garlic is like, I'm not killing someone at least. So more restaurants are open now. That person can eat in like 50 restaurants. And then that such a person, after being affected by the illusory energy or the bad association, starts to like, okay, it doesn't matter, what we eat anyways. It just goes in the stomach anyways. So let's eat everything. So that person can go to all the restaurants. So what this means is, the more we become unrestricted in our sense control, the more we let ourselves loose, the more options are there. The more, because of the illusory energy of Krishna, is multi-branched. You go from one branch to the next branch, and then there are 50 more branches to choose from. And then you go to one more branch forward, and there are 200 branches to be selected from. And if you still go further, then there are 200,000 branches. and you go further inside of that material tree, then there are 2 million branches, and you're so confused. Where did I come from? And how do I go back? Because when you look back, you have 2 million branches to choose and go back to where you came from. That's what Krishna tries to describe. The more we get entangled into the net of this illusion, the more it becomes difficult to come out. And that's why our scriptures, our acharyas have given rules and regulations so that we don't get entangled into this very complicated tree of material illusion. Because just like, suppose we're traveling in a submarine, we're under the water, and we're under the submarine. Falling a prey to any material desire is like opening a door of the submarine. Then what will happen? The water will start coming in. If someone thinks that, okay, Srila Prabhupada says, no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. I mean, I can lose myself a little bit, and I can, instead of 4 regulatory principles, let me follow 3. It's like opening a door of the submarine. And then what will happen? So much water will start coming inside. And then you will be so much in anxiety that now I'm falling down, now I'm going down, and the more water comes, the more the chances that I'm gonna die, drowned. And opening another door, no meat eating, okay, let's eat meat, so opening another door. No intoxication, sometimes if some people say, okay, Lord Shiva smokes, I smoke, what is the big deal? Some people, they're opening those doors of the submarine, and they're going down in the illusion. They're going down in the hellish planets. So it is described, the more the doors open, it's hard to remove the water, and the downwards you go. Similarly, the more we get entangled in the material illusion, the more it becomes difficult to get back to even on the earthly planet. You go down in the hellish planets, and down. So Krishna ultimately says, Nashtatmanaha alpa buddhaya. This person, they're as if the killer of the soul. So somebody may say, dear Krishna, you yourself said that soul cannot be killed. But as good as killing the soul itself. So it is very important to understand that when our acharyas, they are giving these rules and regulations, it is not to bind us. Sometimes we think that, why Srila Prabhupada has given so many rules and regulations, and why do I have to follow these? These are actually the regulative principles of freedom. They actually free us from this illusion. Here Srila Prabhupada also gives in previous purport also Srila Prabhupada says that Kashyapa surrendered to his prostitute wife. And here Srila Prabhupada also writes, in other words, sex life with one's wife is equal to prostitution if the regulations are not properly followed. So it's very confusing to see that how Srila Prabhupada is comparing the life of married couples to prostitution. It sounds like extreme. And Srila Prabhupada says in the previous 2 purports, we see the Kashyapa succumbed to his prostitute wife. So it appears if somebody is a prostitute, then how can that person be wife? And if somebody is wife, how can she be prostitute? It's confusing because it's in the same sentence there is contradiction. How to understand is very easy to understand. What Srila Prabhupada is saying is that the prostitution or the prostitute is the consciousness. If somebody gets into such a consciousness, then that person, he is actually going downhill just like a prostitute. The person who is not willing to abide by the regulatory principles, or the person who is not ready to obey the instructions of the spiritual master, then it is considered as good as prostitution. Why? Because prostitutes are supposed to, most of the, like not all of them, some ladies, some girls at a young age, they are forced into such profession. But in most of the cases, the ladies that do not want to work hard, or they just are attached to sense gratification, or they're attached to money, just like the story of Pingala in the 11th canto. So just like that, the lady who does not want to surrender to a husband, rather she wants to have unrestricted sexual enjoyment, or unrestricted gain of wealth through such a profession. That's why it's called that consciousness, that type of mentality is condemned. Just like Srila Prabhupada mentions that the pastime of Raghunath Das Goswami. When Raghunath Das Goswami came to Jagannath Puri, he was so austere. He was extremely austere. He is also called as renunciation personified. Such was his renunciation, that he would, in the beginning, he would only take whatever people would just give as charity. So he would go and stand outside the Simhadwar in Jagannath Puri, and he would just beg for some Mahaprasad of Jagannath Ji. Raghunath Das Goswami, he would go there and he would think that, oh, maybe this person will give me nice prasad. Maybe this person has dal. Maybe this person has some nice sweet gulab jamun. Maybe he'll give me something really nice to eat today. And when Raghunath Das Goswami just thought that, what am I doing? I am acting like a prostitute. What kind of mentality is this, that I'm thinking, oh, maybe this man will give me very nice Mahaprasad. Oh, maybe he has really good prasad, and I'm begging to them. So Raghunath Das Goswami, he felt disgusted and he left. And he said, from today, I will not even take whatever I beg or whatever I received as charity. I will stop that from today. Rather, he went to a place where all the discarded Mahaprasad of Jagannath was thrown. The Mahaprasad that is eaten by Jagannath Ji comes to the Anand Bazaar, and it is sold there, if anybody of you has gone there. And that, whatever is unsold, it goes to a cow shed, like there is like a dumpster. They throw it in the dumpster. And all the cows, all the different animals go there, and they eat from that, all the rejected prasadam. Raghunath Das Goswami said, I will go to that place and I will get whatever is rejected, whatever is thrown and discarded. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that he would go when all the cows and all the other animals, it also means dogs, and all the other animals were done eating. And even they did not want to eat that prasad. It's like, this is too bad for us. We can't eat this. We'll wait for the fresh stock tomorrow. So Raghunath Das would go at night, sneak in there and get that, rotten, discarded prasad. He would take it, he would wash it, and whatever was the inner part of the prasad, after washing the rotten part, he would take that and he would add little salt, and sometimes without anything he would eat it just like that, remembering Krishna and remembering that this is still the Mahaprasad of Jagannath. That was his renunciation. And when Swarup Damodar Goswami, he found out that Raghunath is eating this. Raghunath Goswami said that if you are eating, that means it has to be really good. So he also tried, he also grabbed it and ate. He was like, wow, this is amazing. never knew this stuff. Now, Raghunath Das Goswami would eat this kind of stuff, and when Swarup Damodar Goswami found out, he told to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this is what Raghunath is eating. When Mahaprabhu heard, Mahaprabhu came in the hut, in that kutir where Raghunath would stay. And he came and sat down and he said, Raghunath, I have heard that you are feasting. Without me, you are eating the most opulent, the most amazing Mahaprasad of Jagannath, and you are not sharing with me. How dare you? And Raghunath had hidden it because he would not, show it to anyone. He would hide it. But Mahaprabhu went straight to the place he would hide it. And he grabbed it and he started eating it. And Mahaprabhu said, in all the three worlds, there is nothing superior, there is nothing more tastier than this prasad. This is the best. I have eaten so many things I have eaten so far, but this is the highest. Now, Raghunath Das Goswami's renunciation is very important to understand, because he was so austere, and when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu left the world, he just wanted to go to Govardhan, travel from Jagannath Puri to Vrindavan, and go to Govardhan and just give up everything and give up his body, because he could not bear the separation from Mahaprabhu. So he came all the way to Vrindavan with the intention that I just have come here to give up my body. But when he found Rupa and Sanatana Goswamis, he felt little relieved in the association of these great Vaishnavas. But when Sanatana Goswami also left the world, he said, that's it, I have no reason to live. So now what he used to eat was discarded prasad. He stopped eating that also. He only started eating fruits, discarded fruits, when Sanatana Goswami left. But still Rupa Goswami is still there. I can still live with his association. I can still, have some association. So he survived eating the discarded fruits. But when Rupa Goswami also left the world, then Raghunath, he started to only take a leaf, and whatever could be contained in that leaf, that much amount of buttermilk he would take until he left the world. So that was the renunciation of Raghunath Goswami. Why are we listening to this? Is to understand that the more we close the doors of the sense gratification, the more our submarine will be strong and will go faster to Goloka Vrindavan. So that's the main important aspect to understand. The more we open up the gates, the more we open up the different doors of the submarine by allowing unrestricted sense gratification, the more it is very difficult to come out of such situation and come out of the material entanglement. So here, especially the consciousness of prostitute, it's also described in the 11th canto when the Brahmana Avdut was talking to Maharaj Yadu. He says that one time when I was walking on different parts of the world, I came across a prostitute called Pingala, and I made her my guru. But that is really shocking that he said that I made a prostitute, Pingala, as my guru. So Maharaj Yadu asks, describe more. Then he describes that there was a prostitute, Pingala, and one time she was standing outside her doorway and calling out for lover, somebody who would come and satisfy her and give her some money. And she was so much being attacked by the lusty desires. She was thinking, oh, maybe this man has more money. Maybe this man has a lot of money. Oh, this looks like somebody who would definitely want to be with me. But nobody came to her. Everybody went away. And then she became so sad and morose that within her heart, a sense of detachment arose. And she started praying to the Supreme Lord. That means that she had gained some kind of piety. There is some agyat sukruti. Maybe she appreciated some Vaishnavas. Maybe some Vaishnava gave her some Mahaprasad. Something happened and she developed the sense of detachment. And then she starts to pray to Supreme Lord. Aho me mohavitatim Pashyatam vijitatmane yakantarasata kamam kamayena balisha. She says that, oh, what kind of stupid fool I am that I was engaged in sense gratification. Yakantarasata kamam. I was thinking that maybe this person will satisfy me or maybe that person will satisfy me. But I was so foolish that just like a child doesn't understand what is good for him. If you give a child, in one hand, one cookie, and in another hand, one credit card, American Express, unlimited, 100,000 credit, what will the child accept? The child will go for the cookie, because the child doesn't understand what is the real value of the credit card or the money. Just like that, we also foolishly choose sense gratification over Krishna consciousness, because we do not understand the real happiness in the spiritual world, how much happiness is there in the spiritual world. But we rather choose some petty pleasures of the material world. Ultimately, they cause us suffering. Santam samiparamanam rati pradam vitapradam tucham imam vihaya nityam imam vihaya akamadam dukkha bhayadi shokam moha pradam tucham aham bhajednya. She says that the Lord of the universe is residing in my heart. Santam samipam, the Supreme Lord is in my heart. He is my real husband. He is in my heart. He is the closest to me. And he is Vittapradam, Nityam. He is eternal husband, not just some temporary husband for some temporary time. He is Nityam and he is Vittapradam. And he is the bestower of all benedictions. He loves to give opulence to all the worthy devotees. And how foolishly that I was engaged in trying to get happiness from so-called people from this world. Akamadam, dukkha, bhaya, adi and shokam. These so-called men have only given me dukkha, unhappiness, bhaya, fear, adi, mental stress, and shoka, lamentation. So giving up the Supreme Lord, who is the husband, I have become unchaste to my real eternal husband, the Supreme Lord. And I have acted like a prostitute and looking for pleasure from another man. So Pingala Uvacha, this Pingala became completely detached and she engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. So that's how she attained the highest perfection. One time in Mayapur, Srila Prabhupada was receiving a complaint of a person that they said, oh, he goes to a prostitute. And Srila Prabhupada called him and his wife. And Prabhupada told the wife that, you should be serving your husband, that he doesn't have to do such an action. And then Prabhupada said that if the cow is not giving milk, then somebody may go to the market to get the milk. And then Prabhupada said that now you go out, I have to deal with him separately. So when she left, then Prabhupada dealt with that person. He chastised him so harshly that he said that I am giving you everything and I have even accepted you, and still if you are committing such an action, then it just breaks my heart. The spiritual master is taking the responsibility of the disciple. He is ready to take the sins committed by the disciple. But if the disciple only thinks that, oh, my spiritual master is so powerful that even if I act wrong, even if I commit sins, still, oh, he is such a great Nitya Siddha Vaishnava, he will deliver me. So Srila Prabhupada was harshly chastising this person, saying that this mentality is going to take you to the eternal hell, because the real essence of Krishna consciousness is to follow the instruction of the spiritual master, not just depend on his great aura, or not to just depend on his great personality, but to follow the instructions given by the spiritual master 100%, and with which we can go back home, back to Godhead. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anybody has any questions? Okay.
My question is that if this prostitute word has been used very strongly, and as far as I'm concerned, my understanding was only the illicit connection, doing illicit connection, sex illicit connection, illicit. So, in asking my question, I will mention something that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, also, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's an incident that he uses the word prostitution to, when Balabhacharya came, and he was trying to force to listen to this commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam. And he said that his commentary was probably better than Sridhara Swami. At that point, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu considered him as a prostitute. So now my question is, if a devotee doesn't follow or obey the superior Vaishnavas and think he knows better, do we fall in the same category as prostitute? Yeah. Can that word be used like that?
What is the question you said last?
The question is, just like Balavata he says, no, my commentary is better. Lord Chaitanya said, oh, I consider you a prostitute because he's disobeying the Swami. You know. So now, we disciples, if we don't follow or we think we know better than the acharyas or the guru, are we also fall in that same word prostitute?
Yes, because that's why Srila Prabhupada is using such harsh words, and sometimes we may think that why Srila Prabhupada is using these words, like Diti is like a prostitute wife, or here also Prabhupada mentions the sex life within marriage that is not in rules and regulation is like prostitution. But Srila Prabhupada is telling the same thing. If you do not follow the instruction of the spiritual master and you want to act whimsically, that is in itself like acting like a prostitute. Just like Diti did not listen to her husband. That means her chastity was challenged. She compromised on the principle of chastity. Because if a lady is chaste to the husband, then that means she should obey and follow the instruction of the husband. Similarly, when the disciple is chaste to the spiritual master, then he is supposed to obey and follow the instructions of the spiritual master. When the disciple is not obeying the instructions of the spiritual master and acting whimsically, then it's the same behavior. Just like a prostitute, she doesn't want to have a husband, or she doesn't want to follow the husband. Rather, she thinks there is more happiness, there is more wealth, more prosperity if I act on my own, independently. I can get so much money from so many men. Why do I have to follow only this one rascal? She thinks that why this person? Why one? I can have so many, and so many will bring me so many gifts. So I can enjoy so much more, and that consciousness has been condemned. The Srila Prabhupada is mentioning here that Diti acted like a prostitute. But it doesn't make sense, because if she is married, how is she acting like a prostitute? So this is what we're understanding, that her mentality is that of a prostitute by not following the scriptural injunction, by not following the direct instructions she is receiving. And just like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, that you are supposed to follow the acharya, you are supposed to follow your spiritual master. And if somebody is not chaste to the spiritual master, then how can you be chaste to any other spiritual master, any other person? You know, what is your value? You have no value. If you cannot be chaste to that person who is willing to give you everything, and he is even willing to take the risk of taking all your sins that you have committed for so many lifetimes, such a person, if you cannot be loyal, to such a person, then how can you be loyal to anybody? So that's the main intention why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also used such words. And he always told all the followers that we all have to be chaste to the spiritual master, to his mission. So we, as the members of International Society of Krishna Consciousness, we have to follow the path and the mood and the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. Some people come and then they go to some other organization. They say, oh, this organization, this guru says he can directly put me in my Swarupa. And and then so many of the Prabhupada disciples also, so many of the other people, they leave and they go to some other person. That person is also at fault, because he is committing sin by reinitiating somebody's disciple. It's like taking somebody's wife. So they are also wrong. And most importantly, that person who is not being loyal, who is not being chaste to the spiritual master, and being or acting whimsically, that person is at bigger fault. That's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu condemns this. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari. Misery.